going to do how it works, and then Dante is going to do the traditions.
Hey, Dennis.
How it works. Rarely have we seen a person fail that has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot and will not completely give themselves to the simple program. Usually men and women are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. They are such unfortunate. They are not a father. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which remains rigorous honesty. The chances are less than average. There are those who suffer from grave emotional disorders. Many of them do not recover. They have the capacity to be honest. Our story is closed in this general way what we used to be like, what happened, what we're like now. You decided that you want what we have and are willing to go any length to get it, and you're ready to take certain steps. At some point, we bought. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness and our command, we begged you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us just tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, vastly, and powerful. Without help, it is too much for us. But is there one? There is one that has all power. That one is God. May you find him out. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at a turning point. We asked his protection and care with a complete abandon. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested at the program will cover. 1, we admitted that we're powerless over alcohol. Our life became unmanageable. 2, and we believe that the power greater than ourselves can restore us to sin. 3, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God we understood. 4, we made a search in the fields more inventory of ourselves. 5, we committed God to ourselves and to another human being with that nature of our own. 6, we are tired and ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked him to remove our shortcuts. 8, made a list of all persons we harmed and came in to make amends with them. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so with incidental others. 10, continue to take personal inventory when we were wrong, promptly admit it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God. We understood him, praying only for knowledge is his will for us, and the power to carry that out. 12, having a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Many of us exclaim, "What an order, I cannot go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has ever been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We're not saints. The point is that we're willing to grow on spiritual lines. The principles we've set down guides progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of alcoholic, chapter into the agnostic, the person who ventured before and after made clear 3 pertinent ideas. A, we were alcoholics and could not imagine our own lives. B, we know that probably no human power could have believed our God would. C, God could and would do something.
That's right.
Dante, I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Dante.
I'm going to read 12 traditions. 1, common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. 2, for our group first stands with one ultimate authority. A loving God as he may express himself in our good conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants, they do not govern. 3, the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. 4, each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. 5, each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. 6, an AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, thus problems of money, property, and prestige that pervert us from our primary purpose. 7, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8, Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, and our service centers may employ special workers. 9. AA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10. Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues, hence the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. 11. Our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need to always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. 12. Anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities.
Thanks, Reed.
Thanks, Reed. At this time, we would like to welcome all newcomers and visitors. Excuse me, I did it again. Our newcomer greeter for the woman is Katie, and she's here.
Katie.
Where are you? Yeah. See Katie, ladies, if you have any questions or want to join the home group. And then Matt, I know you're here. Or Mark.
Mark.
Hey, I was just making sure you were really here. Yeah. So guys, see Mark. Any questions? Join the home group sponsorship. Same with Katie. Thanks for being here, guys. So would all home group members please raise their hands? And see any home group member if you have any questions or want to get a sponsorship. And if you want to see me after the meeting to join the home group, I can help you out as well. I know Jamie, she decided to break, and she's a new home group member. So there's nobody else up there. But if you'd like to join the home group again, we'll put your name up there and you could get into action. Thanks, Jamie. Good mac and cheese.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any announcements?
Hey, I'm Savannah, I'm alcoholic.
Thanks, man.
War Mountains had an advanced golf retreat, which is Thursday, October 13th. Join us for vegan hiking, fishing, fellowship, bring a tent, food, and picnic. Meetings are every 2 hours. Speaker meeting Saturday 8 p.m. Cost $8. Campsite 1 is from October 14th to October 16th. Campsite 2 is October 13th to the 16th. Contact Jason S., Travis B., Reggie B., and Todd S. Thanks for the
Hey, I'm Travis. I'm an alcoholic. So keeping it sober group, we'll have our monthly business meeting next Tuesday after the meeting. All are welcome. And also after the meeting, anyone wants to do some service work, we got plenty to clean up. And I think there's probably plenty of food left too. Take something home with you. Thanks.
I'm Lila, I'm alcoholic. Bass 38 anniversary dinner, September 17th, 5 p.m. Highland Hills Golf Club, speaker following dinner.
Thanks,
Thanks, Layla.
Okay, any other announcements for the good of AA? Anyone sick or in the hospital to whom we need to send a card? Okay. We have AA literature available in the foyer. We also have big books, 12 and 12s, and other AA books for sale. If you need one, see me after the meeting. Richard is going to announce our speaker this evening.
Richard Johncock, big
Hey, Richard.
Anyway, it's an honor and privilege to introduce this guy because he's been a big part of my recovery. Because he's been here and I've seen him. I've seen him go through struggles, and I've seen him stay sober. And I've seen him keep coming. And live out a solution in his life. So with that, I'm not going to take up any more of your time. Chuck?
Put this basket over here because it's empty. If it was full, I would have left it up here. My name's Chuck. I'm an alcoholic. Hey, Chuck. Grateful to be sober. Grateful to be a member of this home group. And man, I had a hell of a speech worked out all week long, and it left me between that chair and up here. So one thing I would like to say is that I'm grateful this home group started up when it did in August of 2000. Was it 2003 or 4? 2003. But anyway, 18 years ago. I had I've been married for about 3.5 years. I've just gotten separated. And, with about a week from that happening, somebody, I don't remember who it was, might have been Julie, had called me. It's like, look, they're having a meeting to form a home group in Aberdeen. And I was 11 years sober at the time. And it happened just when it was supposed to. And I mean, I was able to focus on trying to help this stuff get going. And, man, I'll tell you what, I don't know what would have happened if it wasn't for that. Who knows, but one of the themes of my story, and I'm sure everybody that's sober, is that God shows up exactly when he needs to. He's always there, but it's the times that we need him the most that, it's obvious of his presence. My sobriety date's March 18th of 1993. I was looking around the room before everybody was coming in. I think AJ and Joyce were the only two people in here tonight that were here when I came in. So they know what I looked like and where I was at. So I brought a picture tonight of a Christmas. I think it was the year before I got sober. I want to make sure I get this back because it's one of the few pictures I have with my mom. She died in 2020, but this was when I was using and drinking, obviously. So I'm going to send this picture around if you're kind of blind like me and you can't see that good. All the presents at my feet are socks and underwear. Stuff you can't pawn. And what you won't see in this picture is any pocketbooks because they're on lockdown. Trust me. My brother's in here too, and he's been in recovery for 29 years also. So, our family's been truly blessed to have two members of our family that we're suffering from addiction that have been able to get sober and turn our lives around. So I'm gonna start over here with Ted. Man, I tell you, if you would have told me before I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, or anybody that knew me, or any of my family members, what my life would be like today, nobody could have believed it. Not my parents, not my family, nobody that knew me other than the people in Alcoholics Anonymous would have been able to believe it. It was unimaginable, that my life could be what it is today. And I'm sure there's people in here that feel the same way. And that's because Alcoholics Anonymous. But the greatest thing about that is that there's people in my life today that don't know that I'm in recovery. They've never known me like that, and they would never be able to believe what my life was like before I got to AA. If you went up to them and told them this guy was doing this and that and the other, they would swear you were lying. They say that's not Chuck. That's not the Chuck we know. And one of the great things about Alcoholics Anonymous is it doesn't just get you sober, it changes your whole life, it changes who you are. And I heard a speaker one time, one of those conventions or something, he said that if you come in here and work this program on a daily basis, that over time you would change at a cellular level. That's not just outside, that's your whole DNA. Now he's not saying you can go out and pick up a drink with impunity, but you're not going to be the same person that you were in addiction. I think I said my sobriety date, March 18th, 1993. I didn't come to Alcoholics Anonymous to get sober. Almost 30 years ago, November 1992, my younger brother went to the Pinehurst Treatment Center. In the Pinehurst Treatment Center, after you've been in there a couple of weeks, they would bring those guys down here on a bus to meetings. And I'd had a phone call with my brother, and we were ignorant. We didn't know what our problem was. We thought it was one substance. And he called me, and we were on the phone, and he's like, we're coming down to that meeting. Can you bring me a joint? I was like, yeah, man. I said, shit. I mean, if I was in treatment, I want a joint too. And I was hoping he would get over this problem he had, because he had a driver's license and I had a job. So he was like, it was his fault. I was going to be fine if we couldn't go get what I needed. I mean, that's the way we think. But what happened is I came down here to this meeting on a Thursday night. And it was a speaker back then, speaker meeting, the Thursday night meeting. And those guys came in, and I sat back in there, and the smoke was so thick you couldn't even see up here at the podium. And, at the end of the meeting, I walked out to that, right out there where the little used to be the smoking area, and passed him that deal. And that was my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. Today I'm standing up here with over 29 years of sobriety. So my message is, no matter why you're here, you kids down there I know y'all locked up, we ain't fools. We know your parents done turned your ass in. But you're here for a reason. God don't make no mistakes. And I didn't walk in that room that night to be a speaker 29 years later up in front of a crowd. But what happened was, God's will for me was to get sober. My brother, obviously, he didn't get kicked out of treatment. I think they set him back a week. And he didn't stay sober when he got out of that treatment center. He was 19 years old. I'm 9 years older than him. I was 30 at the time. And maybe he was 21. But anyway, he was younger, a lot younger than me. He was the baby. And it took a little while, and I started going to meetings. And I really started going that was in November, the first year I remember is the marathon. If you're new down here, we'll be having it this year, but back then it was 24 hours. And I would smoke some pot. I'd come down here to the damn marathon, eat the cookies and the brownies, and share at the meeting how grateful I was to be sober. That's the truth. And but what happened was, I hadn't been welcome anywhere for years. Not my parents, not anybody. I mean, nobody wanted me around. Trust me, nobody wanted me around. And Alcoholics Anonymous, they had their hands out, shaking my hand, telling me they were glad I was here. And I remember I met Richard's father. He was one of the first guys I met down here at that marathon back in Christmas of '92. And I kept coming to meetings. And I didn't get a sponsor. I didn't do any of the things they tell us to do. I was trying to stay sober on coffee and cookies and weed. But what happened was eventually I did get a sponsor, and I still didn't get sober, and I used him, and he would pick me up and take me to meetings. But eventually in March of '93, about 4 months after I'd started coming to meetings, I finally surrendered, and I've been able to stay sober ever since then. I was born a long, long time ago in a land far, far away called Asheboro, North Carolina. And, in Bill's story, when he sees that doggerel when he goes over there to World War I, the headstone, it was an ominous warning. And I was born in Asheboro, which was a dry town. It was an ominous warning. And I always wondered over the years, even after I got in Alcoholics Anonymous, if we had only stayed in Asheboro, if I would have ended up on drugs and alcohol. And about 4 years sober, I met Julie. She's from Asheboro. I knew right then I wouldn't have had a chance. But she's been a good friend of mine for over 20 years. And her and Richard were, like I said, were here from original members when the home group got started. But man, my parents were awesome. I come from a family, there was no alcohol, no drugs. All my sisters are just straight-laced. My younger brother, me and him both in recovery. I was never around any kind of partying growing up or anything like that. Had absolutely no reason to drink other than when first time I drank, I loved what it did for me. You know, I just loved it. But I'm just like everybody else. You know, they say we've got a spiritual malady. And I didn't understand what that meant. You know, when I heard that I had a spiritual malady, I thought that meant I got to go down there and get saved at the church. And I've done that. I did that when I was 12, 13 years old, before I started drinking. Well, spiritual malady is a little different. What it is there's something in me that I don't feel good enough. I don't feel whole. You know, I can remember before I ever thought about drinking, I would get in trouble because I would always do stuff because I felt like I needed you to like me. I would do stuff like, one of the things was, we were on a church deal. We went somewhere and we stopped at one of those steakhouses to eat. And I talked the guys in, we'll go out. We won't pay for our food. Now on a church outing, I mean, how dumb am I? Well, you know, one of the guys, he caved. I mean, they told on us. My mom was so embarrassed. I mean, that was her life, was that Baptist church up there. And at the time, we lived in Maxton. That's where I grew up. I was born in Asheboro, ended up down in Maxton. I don't remember Asheboro or Raleigh. We lived there for a little while. But my dad was with Duke Energy, now with CP&L when I was growing up. And, you know, he was a great father. Coached my little league baseball teams, coached the football. He would bring kids home, and we had 5 youngins, and he was the only one working. And he would bring kids home, the less fortunate guys that he coached, and let them do odd jobs around our house so they could make money to buy shoes and stuff like that. So, you know, that's kind of family I come from. And my mom, anytime the doors of the church were open, she was there, and she was always, you know, in some kind of group, or if somebody died making food. I mean, she was dialed in. She was like would have been a perfect AA member if she would only been in AA. I mean, she was that kind of church member. But what happened was, you know, I didn't know there was anything wrong with me. I didn't know that everybody didn't feel the way I felt, but I knew that, you know, my sisters and them, when we would go to church, I could tell they felt something I didn't feel. You know, they would sing and smile, and yeah, they were getting into it, and I was like, man, I wonder what we're having for lunch when we get home. You know? I mean, is this ever going to be over? This preacher has been on this message way too long, and you know, my mind would race, and it was all over the place, and I was insecure, and I'm just full of fear, and you know, always comparing myself to everybody, and by the way they looked, I could tell how they felt, and I didn't feel that way. And I can remember turning about 13 years old. And up to that point, the only time I really escaped from those thoughts was if I was playing Little League Baseball or I was playing music. I started playing guitar when I was about 8 years old, with a couple of little bands here and there through the years. But that was the 2 escapes I had. And you know, I didn't do that great at school. I wasn't dumb. I was just afraid to ask questions, and I wouldn't pay attention because I was too busy cutting up, trying to impress people. So, thinking that they would like me, you know. And so my sister, my older sister, she's the exact opposite of me. Straight A student. She did shit like study and stuff. I mean, come on. You know, who wants to do that? You know, she ended up going to law school, got a degree in, you know, straight A's and every kind of award you could make. Page, governor's school, finalist for the Moorhead Scholarship, you know, 4.0 through NC State 4 years, went to Chapel Hill Law School, 4.0. She would cry if she got a B in school. You know, and I'd be like, hell, if I got a B, I'd be celebrating. You know what I'm saying? But polar opposites, you know. And I love her, you know, but man, it was a lot to live up to. So I took, you know, my deal was if I can't be the best, I'll quit. You know, I won't even try to be second or third. You know, everything. I can remember in kindergarten or first grade, whenever you start reading, it's probably third grade for me actually, but they had a contest who could read the most books, and I was rolling, you know, see Jack Run, see Bob Jones, see, you know how to see this, see that, books we had back then. And some guy got up on me by 2 books, and I quit. I was like, well, it's over, you know, I'm not going to win, so why even try? I didn't read another book the rest of that year. But my first time drinking alcohol, not my first time drinking alcohol, my first time catching a buzz, we were camping out down there at 795 South Austin Street, my backyard, out in the little woods over there on the side, and we had us a little campfire. I was with a guy and his father owned the Firestone store, and my other friend Randy, his dad owned the Safeway supermarket. And I felt inferior to those guys. Their parents were business owners. My dad climbed poles for a living. And we had stolen some wine coolers. We'd had beer before. I'd never been able to drink enough beer to catch a buzz. We got wine coolers, and it was fall. I would say it was probably September or October. It was just chilly enough that those wine coolers had sat out there, you know, in the woods for a couple of days since we'd stolen them from Randy's dad's grocery store. And I popped the top on one of them bad boys, and I took me a couple of swallowers, and I was like, shit, this ain't nothing like that nasty Miller or that Schlitz malt liquor. Like, this ain't bad at all. And about that third swallow, it started happening, y'all. If you're alcoholic, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I can feel it spreading out. My ears got smaller. I think I even grew a pubic hair. I was way behind, trust me. I weighed about 60 pounds in the 8th grade. And if you look at that picture, I was about 90 when I came to AA. But I'm going to tell you right now, man, it was a miracle. It was a miracle. My life changed. It was a spiritual awakening. You know, I've been looking for that my whole life. You know, I got drunk as a billy goat that night. I blacked out. I don't remember anything. I obviously threw up because everything was purple the next morning. It felt like a mouse that slept in my mouth. My head was like a Roadrunner cartoon, you know, when he dropped the damn thing on his foot or something, and it would go like that. I mean, that's what it was doing. And you know, all I wanted to do was do it again. And if I could have, I was 13, I would have stayed out there in that tent the rest of my life and drank. But I couldn't do that. And here's the deal. It wasn't but about 10 or 12 years later, about 3 miles from there, I was living in a tent in the woods. And it wasn't fun at all. You know, that's where my drug and alcohol use took me. And, you know, I couldn't wait to drink again. My mom and dad are Baptists, First Baptist, and there wasn't no alcohol in our house. I didn't know about vanilla extract or none of that stuff that I learned about once I came into AA. You know, I didn't know you could take shoe polish and pour it through white bread. And I found all that out from them people down there in Hamlet on the railroad when they would speak. Old Joe Lewis and Daryl C. and them guys. You know, when I got to AA, I was like, damn, I missed out. You know, all those times I could have been high as a kite and shit sitting right there in the drawer, and I didn't even know about it. And I'm out there trying to steal stuff or huffing gas or something. You know. I mean, be careful what you know, there's old-time railroad guys now, they knew how to drink. There was one guy that drank Aquavelva. I remember his story. He said he had the best smelling farts in the damn town. But he didn't want anybody to know he was drinking, so he was drinking. He buying Aquavelva by the case. If anybody doesn't know what that is, that's aftershave back in the 70s. I mean, that was the kind of stuff I heard when I came to, I love Alcoholics Anonymous. I mean, it's the best entertainment you can get for a buck. But, you know, every opportunity I got from that point on, I drank, and I never drank just to look cool or to fit in or to catch a little buzz. I hammered it. I mean, I'm a blackout drinker. Every time. You know, I'd chug the beer as hard as I could. I'd chug the whiskey as hard as I could. And when I started doing the other substances, I did those just as hard as I could. I think it's a requirement now to apologize for having drugs in your story. So I'm going to tell my one drug story. And I'm apologizing right now for telling it. And I was riding down the road the other day, listening to the country radio station, and an infomercial came on that said, would you like to know how to lose a pound of fat a week? And I was like, hell, I know how to lose a pound of fat a day. It's called crack cocaine. And that's where I was at when I walked in Alcoholics Anonymous in 1993. So just so you know, I drank a lot and I did a lot of other stuff, you know, and you can tell from that picture I'm looking pretty bad. I've been up all that night, trust me. But I love to smoke pot and I love to do that other stuff, but nothing did for me what alcohol did for me. And, you know, I ended up getting into high school. Things got a little easier. We were able to get alcohol. I had one of those guys I got drunk with that first night. He had failed a grade and he was a year older. And down there, if you drove up, there was one store over there on Highway 71 going out to towards Red Springs called Carlin's in Maxton, North Carolina. Carlin didn't give a shit. If you drove up in his parking lot in a car, he would sell you beer or wine. And we did. Jody had a badass 1968 Chevelle, and that car was bad. And we get us a couple of tall boy beers and ride around after school and listen to Leonard Skinner over and over and over. You know, they just come out with the Pronounce album. And we loved it, and that's all we heard. We wore that. That was an 8-track tape, by the way. Anybody knows what that is? We had to end up splicing that sucker back together. We were playing so much. But one tall boy beer would get me drunk. I mean, I weighed 60 pounds. And he would drop me off down there at my house. And he had to go work over at his dad's Firestone store. And I would go in, take a nap. And my mom, she was busy taking care of my younger brother and my sister because they were, both 5 and 3 or 4 or whatever. And, I'd take a nap. I'd get up, go in there and eat dinner. And this would happen 2 or 3 times a week. And then it started where we would start partying on the weekends. And eventually, ended up getting into high school. Well, I was already in high school, but I started doing some other stuff, some other substances, mainly organic, stuff that grows on those plants. And I fell in love with that because I could do that at school, and I thought nobody knew it. So that became a regular deal. And I was an entrepreneur in school. I was selling counterfeit lunch tickets. I was way ahead of Walmart. I started 3 joints for $1 before they ever thought about having a blue light special. And that's how I financed my stuff, selling lunch tickets and other stuff. And I would, it was fun. And I loved alcohol. It was fun. I've got a good story I forgot to tell. I was going to start with it, but I'm an electrical contractor, and I work construction. And you get to see a lot of stuff when you work construction. And I was on the house Monday, and these plumbers pulled up, and there's 2 boys. And one of them's probably, I won't say he might be 18, the other one's 19. And the younger one, he got out, and he was walking with one leg like this. I thought, damn, what's going on with him? The other boy got out and he had 2 black eyes. You know what? I was like, damn, I remember when my drinking was fun too. I was thinking about putting some literature up on the dash of their truck, but I was like, I don't want to ruin anybody's drinking. Their boys will come around if it's time. They're up there in Montgomery County, they start early. But good kids, man, good kids. But we can spot it. We spot it before anybody knows it. But I ended up graduating high school. I flunked out. I didn't go to enough classes my junior year, and I went to a summer school. Then my senior year, I just decided I'm not going to go. And I had a vehicle, and I would take I've got a younger sister that's 2 years behind me, and then I've got Sylvia and Thomas, which they were over at the dip. My brother's Thomas, the younger one, but they're 2 years apart, so she's 7 years younger than me. So I had to take everybody to school. And I had a little old Volkswagen Bug, and I would drop them off over at the R.B. Dean school over there. And then I'd pull in the parking lot, and I'd get out with my stuff and wait and watch my sister Jolena, who's a tattletale, by the way. And she would go, and as soon as she got around the corner to go into her class, I'd go run back out to the parking lot. And anybody that wanted to skip and go get high that day knew I had a car, would be out there waiting on me. So I did that for about the first 30 or 40 days, and they sent a letter, which jokers. Mailed a letter to my parents. It's like, Chuck hadn't been to school this year. If he misses any more days, he's not going to be coming back. So my dad's like, what's the point? I was like, you're right. He's like, you go get a job. And my mom's like, oh, hell no. But anyway, eventually I did end up getting, I had missed too many days. There was no way I could graduate. I only needed 1 English course to graduate because it was required to have English every year. And I ended up going to night school. And my mom forced me to go to night school. And night school was like a club. The teachers were getting high. We were getting high. It was me and everybody that had been in juvenile or gotten kicked out of school, girls that got pregnant. And it was pretty nice, I'll be honest with you. And I ended up passing. I graduated with my class, And then I went on like a 2-year graduation party. Didn't get a job, didn't do anything but get high and drink, high and drink, get high and drink, bum. And I had it figured out. A lot of my friends worked first shift. A lot of my friends worked second shift over at the glass plant in Lawrenceburg. So I figured out, you know, if I timed it just right, I could get up and go walk into town or ride my bike into town. And those second shift guys, they'd be getting high they start about 1 or 2 o'clock before they go to work. About the time they have to go to work, the first shift guys getting out, they're ready to drink and party. You know what I'm saying? So I had it figured out. I mean, I had a buddy that worked he would always had a job. God bless him. He died a few years ago with cancer in his early 50s. But he was my best friend, Ronnie Stone. And he always worked at one of the Nick's Pick or whatever. And I would go in there and he would go around and unlock the back door. And when he was taking the boxes out and stocking the beer in the coolers, he would put a couple of 6-packs or whatever we needed in those boxes. And he would put them out the back door. I'd go around there, scoop them up, take them over there, put them in the truck. And that was my life. And I was always getting hurt and stuff. But one of the worst, you know, like those guys I was talking about, those plumbers. I mean, I see them coming a mile away. You know, but I was always bruised up. And I remember the worst I ever got hurt. We were. And Maxon's a little small town. I don't know if anybody knows where it's at. There's one stoplight and a railroad track. And the cops don't have anything to do but harass kids like me. And we're out there one night. We're parked right there by where he works, smoking pot and drinking. And they blue light us, and we all jump out and run. That's what you do. And I took off down through the alley behind that damn store, and I hit a dumpster. You know how the things I picked the dumpster up with? That sucker took me out. And I landed on my back, and I'm looking up, and Jerome Briggs, he was the one that always harassed us. Nice guy, super nice guy, but he's just doing his job. He's laughing. He said, "I'm not even going to bother messing with you." He's like, you got exactly what you deserve. And I was like, "You got me, boy, I tell you." But that was my life, you know. And I was still having fun. I mean, I was still having fun. That was fun. That's what I considered fun. You know, it hadn't turned into what it did at the end where, you know, I just wanted to die. I was just, you know, my mom would be taking me to work and we'd be going down the road and I'd see an 18-wheeler coming the other way and I just wished it would pull over there in our lane and just take us out, you know, because I didn't want to live. It was just miserable. So I ended up joining the Navy when I was about 21 years old, and on a drunk bet, me and a friend of mine were drinking Jim Beam, which turned out to be was my drink of choice, Jim Beam whiskey. I mean, I loved it. And it was just right. It wasn't too harsh, it wasn't too sweet, didn't give me hangovers. And about a pint, I was perfect, but anything past that, you know, who knows what's going to happen. I'd black out and, you know, never know what went on. But anyway, they had just bombed the Beirut, Lebanon over there. The Marines all got killed, and we were drinking and feeling all, you know, what do you call it when we want to be patriotic. That was it. I was like, David, we need to go up there and join the Air Force. And we didn't plan on joining. We weren't going to join. I mean, I'm like, the Air Force is supposed to be easy. I mean, their boot camp's like, they said you didn't have to run or nothing. You know? So we go up there to the Lumberton, to the recruiters, and we go in there and we want to sign up on the buddy plan. They had a thing back then called the buddy plan where they would guarantee you that you'd be with your buddy that first whatever. Of course, they lie. But, so we took the test and filled out all the paperwork, and I had a simple possession charge right out of high school for possession of marijuana, and he had flat feet, but he wasn't as smart as me. I passed the test, but my record wasn't clear. He didn't pass the test, but his record was clear. So the guy's like, well, I can't take you because you didn't pass the test. And he looked at me and said, I can't take you because your record's not clear. He said, but the Navy recruiter's right down the hall and they'll take anybody. This is in 1983. We're in the middle of the Cold War. I mean, you know, they just needed bodies. I mean, nobody was signing up. You know, the pay sucked. You know, I mean, nobody was joining the military. They were desperate. So we went down there, and sure enough, the guy's like, I was like, well, he's like, well, we can get you in. He's like, we can have you in there by November. I was like, well, what about Christmas and Thanksgiving? He's like, oh yeah, you get to go home for Christmas and Thanksgiving. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, we'll fly you back up here. I was like, all right, let's do it. So we're signing up. You know, I didn't tell my parents or anything. I went home and was like, yeah, we joined the Navy. My dad's like, when are you leaving? I was like, November 2nd, or 4th, actually. I was like, we got to go up to Raleigh and get our physical and stuff. And we went up there, and sure enough, David's ass had flat feet, so he got set back. And here I am on a plane to Orlando, Florida, without him, the one that taught me into this stuff. And I tell you what, they're real nice to you until you say I do, and then they turn into assholes. I'm telling you right now, they were yelling at me and screaming, and I'm like, hold up now. That's ain't what I signed up for. But, you know, it was an awesome experience. And that was the only 8 weeks I stayed sober from the time I was 13 until I got into Alcoholics Anonymous. And that's because you couldn't get nothing. Even the mouthwash was alcohol free. You know, the first night that I was eligible to go out on town, I went and got drunk, and it was graduation weekend, and a lot of the guys had their parents and family coming up. I told my mom and dad, you know, don't worry about it. I know y'all can't afford it. I mean, about 4 guys went to the liquor store and bought as much liquor as we could get, rented a hotel room, and got falling down drunk. You know, and after I got in Alcoholics Anonymous and looked back about that, you know, I knew about the physical craving. I knew that when I started drinking, I wasn't going to stop. I mean, I just, you know, the more I drank, the more I want. But I thought, you know, maybe if I ever got the right situation, you know, I'd be able to put it down, and as long as I didn't drink, I'd be okay. But I didn't know about the mental obsession. I didn't know that whole 4 or 8 weeks or whatever it was I was in boot camp, all I wanted to do, all I was thinking about was that first chance to go out and get drunk. Now, I wasn't going to do any drugs. No, that was a no-no. They told me that. It's like, you can drink all you want to, you got to stay off the other stuff. I had to get a waiver to get in because of that drug charge. I ended up getting shipped out to a shipping station out of San Diego, but they were in the Philippines on what's called a Westpac tour. I don't know if anybody's ever been to Subic Bay, Philippines, but it's awesome. And that was the first place I went. And I'm a little country boy from Axton, North Carolina, who's never even really been in a bar. And they dropped me off at Clark Air Force Base, and I drive this damn thing around this mountain down here to Subic Bay. And I get there on that ship, and they're like, well, the first night we take, you know, you're going to be on whatever the next day is, that'll be your duty day. But we're going to take you out and then show you a good time. And Subic Bay is the perfect place for that. You see, anything you can fantasize about is there. And I mean, I was like in heaven. I did not want to leave. And it was cheap. So the dollar to peso ratio was 21 to $1, and a beer was 2 pesos. So you do the quick math. So that's like 8 beers for $1. For $5 of your cash, you could go out, get drunk, get a bag of weed this big, get Mama San and all her daughters to let you stay at their house, and you could do anything you wanted to, and you still come back with $3. There was guys that didn't even drink that went AWOL when we were in the Philippines. I mean, they went crazy. But I ended up, my problem was, I like to do more than drinking. At that point, within a week of being on that ship, I knew everybody that was doing what I was, had done all my life, and I was hanging out with those guys. And it wasn't long. It took about 18 months, and I was on a bus coming back from San Diego, California, with envelopes that other than honorable discharge for drugs, alcohol, and behavior. You know, and I thought my life was over. You know. And you would think, at the time I would have been about 23 years old, maybe 24, that I would realize, it's right there in black and white, the U.S. government has diagnosed exactly what my problem is, that I would have enough sense to try to get some help. But you know what I did? They didn't have a bus station here in Aberdeen at the time, so they took me to Fayetteville. And I threw that paperwork right in the damn trash can right there in that bus station in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I called my mom. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. And she did just like she always does. She got up, got in that car, drove up there and picked me up. You know, and she, you know, I told some lie about they gave me early leave or something because I'd been such a good sailor. And you know, they kept asking me, well, when you got to go back? I was like, well, you know, they're supposed to send me a letter. But, you know, just like the school, they did send a letter, and it wasn't addressed to Chuck. It was Mom and Daddy, and it told them what had happened. You know. And by this time, my younger brother, was having issues, and he had, you know, he was doing the same things I was doing, so we started linking up, and that's when we started getting on some of the harder stuff. And I'm gonna rush this thing on through, and I got into construction, and I started out in heating and air, and I'm gonna tell one more drinking story. And I ended up getting a DUI, my one and only DUI in 1987. And I'll tell you where it was at. Where the police station is right now on US 1 used to be a restaurant. It was a seafood place. Now, I've been down there where I grew up doing what I do. And instead of drinking liquor, I was drinking beer. If I'd been drinking liquor, I'd never got in the car and drove that night because I've been passed out over in the corner. But I was drinking beer and snorting stuff. And I come down US 1, and I had a natural light. My mom and dad lived right up here on Pine Street, right down from the men's halfway house. And just as I was rolling down the window, I tossed that natural light, and I always drank glass balls. I couldn't stand a canned beer. I looked over, and that sucker was headed right for a police cruiser, and it bounced off his windshield. I was like, this ain't good. So I turned right up there, and at that time, the Aberdeen police station was right there where that little bank is at the stoplight. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, right there in downtown Aberdeen. That's where they cornered me, and they 5 of them. I mean, they come out of nowhere, folks. I just wanted, if I knew if I could just get to Mom and Daddy's house and get in my bed, everything's going to be all right. They slammed my ass on that window, on the hood of that car, and I was like, look, I'm just going home. It's right over there. The guy was like, you're not going home. You're going to Carthage, son. So the sheriff's deputy grabbed me up, and they took me up there. And you know what I did? I made that phone call to Mama. She got up out of that bed and came and got me. And the next day, we went down there and got that car. Luckily, they didn't impound it. They just left it parked there. And but anyway, I ended up going to court. Lost my license, of course. Community service. And while I was doing community service, my heating and air guy, he fired me because one of the requirements was you got to have a driver's license. He's not going to drive you over there to do the job and drop you off. I met this guy, and we were doing our community service, and he's like, I got a big construction job going on over at the community college, and I'm looking for help. If anybody needs a job, I raised my hands like I do. That's how I got into